Hey, welcome to the Ethics Experts. If it's your first time joining us, welcome. And if you're a returning subscriber, hey, bestie. Hope you have an amazing day. You see what happens when you subscribe, you get a bonus greeting on every episode. On this episode, we talked to the one and only Leslie Boles of Revu Healthcare. Leslie is phenomenal. You will absolutely love her. If you don't know her, you should get to know her. She runs Revu Healthcare and has a really interesting background in compliance and has some really cool experiences. So we dive into entrepreneurship, we dive into intrapreneurship, mindset, and authenticity, and what it takes to really drive impact through negotiation. So I hope you enjoy.
Welcome to the Ethics Experts, where we're elevating ethics and compliance and HR to the strategic level it's supposed to be.
The one and only Leslie Boles. What's happening?
Nick, I'm so happy to see you.
I'm so happy to see you.
So happy.
How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. It's so good to see you. Your whole story has been so inspiring. I've been watching, stalking your page, seeing how you're doing. I'm so happy to see you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a new lease on life, a new perspective here for me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sure. I said as soon as I saw it, I'm like, man, God has a plan for his life. He doesn't even know.
I better get moving
serious.
Here, you know what I mean?
Whatever it is.
So what's been going on with you? It's been a while since we talked.
I know, just busy, learning and growing and learning. Just been busy, just doing a lot more. I plan on doing a lot more speaking this year and just getting out there. We ask for this. Every time I think about how busy we are, I always have to remind myself that I prayed for this. So
right.
We are here. We're in the middle of it.
Yeah. Be careful what you pray for because you just might get it,
You absolutely might get it. So that's where we are. But it's been good. Life is good. I can't complain. I'm going to be doing more traveling this year. I go to the UK in another week. I'm excited about that. I'll be in London and Paris for my best friend's 40th.
But
then
cool.
It's a whole lot of us that are turning 40 this year. We're all 85 babies, so
I gotcha.
A lot of traveling.
Yeah, my brother's turning 40 as well, and so the midlife crisis is in full effect. I see him looking at. I saw some Just for Men in his Amazon cart. You know what I mean? Looking at Corvettes.
Yes, your body does change. I keep telling people I don't know what it is, but I do feel like something different is happening to me. So.
It's crazy. So, what are you going to be speaking about this year?
Well, I'm speaking at HCCA on recent enforcement activity. That's I geek out. I've always geeked out over what everyone has done wrong and sort of breaking it down and analyzing it and presenting it in a fun, entertaining way on, how you can learn from those. So I'm speaking specifically on recent enforcement activities. I think I should know this, but I think I have an afternoon session. I'm solo dolo, and so it'll be good. It'll be good.
All right. Well, if you know what? I'm not going to be able to make it to HCCA this year because it's booked at the same time as Compliance Week. So we have to do a divide and conquer. So I think my brother's coming. So I will make sure that he is at your session with a sign or something to cheer you on,
Yeah. Yes. I saw him in Chicago with Mel for the Waud conference. Yes. I did see him there.
Right.
Yep.
What were you speaking about at that conference?
We spoke about, it was almost like a game that we did where we spoke about, they gave us, Rob Stone gave us just a bunch of different questions to give our perspectives on. Some of them were it was, I forgot what show was modeled.
PTI or something, right? Or pardon my interruption or something.
Pardon my interruption, that's what it is. And so there was some controversial, so some around DEI, some around privacy, compliance serving as legal and compliance, or should compliance report to legal, that sort of thing.
Was it spicy or was it very kind of like a flat pop?
I think it was spicy. We had a few spicy moments. I think all of us are friends, so we were trying to, but there was a couple of times where we, disagreed with one another, but I think it was more lively and engaging that way for the audience. I actually liked it. I'm better off the cuff, so to speak. Yeah. I'm fine that way. So I like the idea of giving genuine, authentic answers in real time. And that's what it was. So, yeah.
Well, and that's so much more engaging for the audience, It
is. Because it surprises them. And the conference was really good. So I think it was a nice, addition to what was already happening. So
that's awesome.
It was good.
So, how's the business going?
It's going amazing. It is. We are 4 years old. Because I count from end of 2021. We are 4 years old and we are doing well. I'm very, very happy with where we are and where we're going. I see really big things happening this year. So we're doing good.
So
I feel like go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I feel like the first 4 years of any new business is very much so trial and error, and they are very painful, but they're also very promising if you learn how to learn from the pain. And then if you can survive the idea of the unexpected. And so I feel like we're at a place where I now can confidently say, okay, now I truly understand what we're doing. It's crazy. And someone actually told me, they said around that 3 to 4 year mark, you'll feel a lot better. And I was like, well, how's it going to take that long? But now I understand why it takes that long and even beyond. But I do think I'm having my aha moment right now about, what it is that I need to do to grow and how I can reasonably grow the business. Yeah,
I mean, even making it 4 years is such a small proportion of companies, I mean, so congratulations to that, because that first year is brutal.
Thank
I think
you.
like 95% of businesses fail in the first year. And so to make it to, and I think it's 95 again, fail the next year. So to make it to 4 years is phenomenal. What has been, I do want to dive into that story because starting your own business is such a scary big thing. And it's usually coming from this, there's like this bucket of feelings where you're like, man, it feels like an opportunity, but it's very scary to jump out on your own. So I definitely want to dive into that. But like, I'd like to hear about the aha moment. Like, what's been the aha moment? Like, has it been like a dialing in of your value proposition? Have you just kind of found like a little bit of a niche? What has that sort of that revelation or that revelatory process been like?
Well, I will tell you, the aha moment is the process for me. I think a lot of people in this day and age forget how important process is in everything you do. Marriage, life, raising children, starting a new business. And when I started to refocus, because I'm a very ambitious person, everyone knows that about me. I'm super ambitious. But I started to reframe the way I described ambition when it came to process. Ambition will cause you to focus more on results, right? And result is fleeting. I started focusing more on reward, right? So what sort of reward is my business yielding? That's not tangible, that's intangible. And so some of the things that our business has yielded is opportunity. One of the greatest feelings that I have is being able to give someone else an opportunity, right? Whether it's a part-time, whether they're working more hours for us, whatever it is, to be able to give someone something that they didn't even think about or introduce them to a new job or to give them a job is one of the greatest feelings that I've had. And I've started to now tie it back to our original purpose. My partner and I, we sat in a basement and we came up with the concept of Revu back in 2015. And it didn't come to fruition till almost 6-7 years later. And so the idea of getting back to my purpose and not focusing on, okay, who's saying yes, who's saying no, who's saying yes, because that's all a part of the process, and learning to love the process when it comes to what we're doing and the volatile nature of entrepreneurship. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. If you own your own business, if you are looking to own your own business, one of the things that you have to fixate on and get comfortable with is volatility. That's it. It's just a part of the entire process. And so my aha moment has come from, man, okay, I'm enjoying this process. It is a process because everyone talks about getting through, but you're always through. I don't want to end it. Yeah. I don't want to stop making money. I want to be in the process. I want to love what I'm doing. And I have developed a unique love for not only what we are. I'm very proud of the fact that we are women owned. I'm very proud of the fact that we're minority owned, right? There's not a lot of people who look like me, right? Who are doing some of the things that we've accomplished. So I have changed the way I think about my happiness. And my aha moment is, you know what? I love this process. I love these challenges. I love your no's. I love your, I'm not going to make it. I love your, she won't make it past a year. I love it because these are all of the things that actually make us a better company and me a better person. So yeah, it's long-winded.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, there's so much wisdom in what you're talking about. I mean, it's so easy for us to focus on like those outcomes and like define our happiness with those outcomes. But to your point, given the inherent volatility in any complex process, whether you're in-house, you're running your own business or whatever, nothing like ever goes
Right.
according to plan, right? Like there's always a new curveball. There's always something unexpected that like pops up. And so if you do it the other way and you're focused on those outcomes, then you're kind of like living and dying by whether the ball went in the hoop that day instead of just like dribbling down the court, And I was thinking, as you were talking about that, like, these guys who have like woodworking shops, like these for some reason I fall into like these various like rabbit holes on like TikTok or like YouTube. And I'm just like watching guys make tables, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have any woodworking tools, but like the name of that game is not, oh, cool, I just built a chair. They enjoy being in the shop. They enjoy sanding it down. They enjoy that actual process. And to your point, if you can fall in love with that process, then you can fall in love with the inputs, which is what you can control, your mindset, the things you're doing every day, your mentality, all that, your attitude. And then the chairs will kind of make themselves. The chairs will kind of spit out of the woodworking shop kind of on their own, and you're not living and dying by all those things. There's so much wisdom in that. What do you think? Like you also made this point where you're like, you kind of made the distinction of you're aiming your ambition at like reward instead of something else. Can you tell me that again and like help me understand what that difference is? Because it's kind of a nuanced difference, but there's a ton of wisdom in it, I think.
Yeah, no, I think there is a lot of us that have really great ambitions, right? And oftentimes ambition, it can be dangerous if you don't understand how you are utilizing it to get where you want to go and the silo it needs to be placed in to get you to where you want to go. So the way I started to break it down is that instead of being outcome driven, right, where I focus on what comes out of me owning my own business, I started to look at, okay, let me focus this on the purpose that I initially started back in 2015 when we sat down. What was the number one reason that we wanted to start the business? Okay, the first thing that we thought about is we wanted to showcase to women who look like me, right, but also women in general, that we do have a place in the ownership arena. We do, right? Yeah, we need to be there. And then I also wanted to help improve my community and whoever I could help. That was my initial thought process. I want to help someone get a job. I want to help someone have a better quality of life. I want to help introduce someone who's never thought about compliance or coding or CDI to this by way of my platform. I want to do that for someone else. And so what I started to do was to remember all of those whys and not the whats. I started to remember the why. And the why helped me to rejuvenate. It helped me to renew. Sometimes your spirit gets broken sometimes because of how many times you face rejection, because of how many times you face, even from people that you love and care about. They're like, I have no idea what you're doing here. I don't want anything to do with it. I'm praying for you. And you're like, well, wait a minute. You're supposed to support me. You need to learn how to redirect my ambition. So instead of putting all of my ambition on, okay, outcome, and then I'm happy. No, let me go back to purpose. Let me go back to process, because I am a person inherently. One of the biggest misconceptions about me is that I love change. I do. I love change. I'm very adaptable. I'm always seeking it. And that is what drives that ambitious aspect of me. But I had to redirect it so that if I don't get a contract, right, or if a person disappoints, a project that they're on for me, and now all of a sudden I'm walking around and I'm upset and I'm not, this is getting on my nerves and yada, 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 whatever the case may be, pointing it back instead of to that outcome and realizing that is just a residual of the process. And remembering, I love the process. I love being here. I love change. I love my why, and this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden, all of those residuals start increasing. All of a sudden, these things start becoming, you're not even focused on them anymore. They're happening, right? You do count them, but it's not part of the plan of the goal. And as a CEO, as an owner, right, as an entrepreneur, it's really important for us to be visionaries within process. We always talk about vision casting and being a visionary and what that looks like, but learning how to visualize the process, even beyond where you're sitting today, and making sure that the why is embedded into the process is what produces the outcome. So I have completely changed my driving point. And I think it's just made me a better person. The people that work with me and work for me, they love being around me. They even like say, hey, remember your why. Remember you said that. And it just helps. It helps me personally. With my husband, he'll tell me, remember your purpose, remember your why, remember why you're doing this. Don't let that get to you. That's just a residual. Those go and come. Sometimes they're negative, sometimes they're positive. And just having that sort of wrapped around me is what's really been super, super helpful. So,
well, it's just so much easier. It's such an easier way to go through life because like, I think the frustration that comes along with that outcome thinking is really rooted in the misconception that you can affect that thing. When in many cases you can't affect it because there's so many different factors at play. You know what I'm saying? Whatever.
Exactly.
But if you can focus on the thing that you can control, to your point, the inputs, the attitude, keeping your eye on that why, well, then the harvest is going to kind of take care of itself, But what's interesting is it's so, you could have journaled for 3 days. You could have gone and gotten an Airbnb in the mountains and just journaled for 3 days about your why at some point. There's a lack of permanence with that. It's like, to your point, you have to constantly renew it. You have to constantly go back to it because, I'm at least speaking for myself. I feel like, on the one hand, I have a very clear picture of my why, but if I'm not reminding myself of that all the time, then it's so easy to get caught up in the frustrations of that contract that you miss or something not going to plan. Like, we will inadvertently, it seems like as human beings, we'll inadvertently our eyes will inadvertently go to that outcome. And we start focusing on that outcome and you're living and dying by that. And you get commission breath or whatever the equivalent is for whatever you're trying to do, where you're really trying to push I'm trying to push my agenda onto you and I'm trying to here, eat this food, and they don't want to eat it, But again, just getting back to that why is so, I was talking to a buddy about this. I had that accident and I had such a change in my perspective. And then here I am a few months later and it's like that perspective, it's not like it's just always there. It's not like my lenses are all new and, they're always clean. It's like I have to take those glasses off and clean them over and over again every single day because it's, life is stressful. We as human beings are constantly projecting into the future and we're trying to predict the future and we have anxiety about worst case scenarios and all those kinds of things. When to your point, we have to be in the moment, we have to be in the now, and we have to be focusing on the things that we can actually control and not wasting those mental RAM cycles on whether it's going to rain today. I have no influence over that,
Exactly. Exactly. And I think doing that has helped me so much. A lot of folks since we've started have asked to come and be mentored by me, which I think is amazing, right? I think it's great that somebody thinks I'm doing such a great job that they want to be mentored by me. It's an honor, but I always ask them whenever they say, what is your why? And if you can't tell me your why, then you shouldn't be doing it, because I have learned in this, entrepreneurship, whoever goes into it, it should be bigger than you. And if it's not,
correct,
if all of the goals and the outcomes are surrounding you, then that's your first problem, right? And you need to go back to the drawing board before you even start, because why is always embedded. Your why should be bigger than you, right? It's easier to go back to when it is bigger than you and to be purposeful about it. And what I would say to anyone, I think the hardest thing or it's not hard, right? One thing a piece of advice that I would give to someone in healthcare who's thinking about going in and starting your own consulting firm is that the best thing I could have done is start it when we did, because consulting is people, it's humans, right? A human could make or break your business simply because of what they say or how they say it. And I think one of the best things that I didn't even realize that I was planning it this way, was gain experience, right? Today's society will tell you, get out there. They're telling, a lot of the younger generation, get out there, start your own business. But there's something so valuable about experience, because everything that we've encountered, I can trace it back to something that happened to me when I was working in the hospital, something that happened to me when I was working in PE, something that someone told me. And I think that has given me the confidence to know that I can keep going. If I had never experienced that thing, sometimes that can be a huge barrier. And so one of the other areas that I always ask people to evaluate is, do you feel you have enough experience? What does experience look like for you? Because that's huge in consulting for any field. I have insurance to ensure that, just in case something happens, it costs this much to fix. And so it's really, really important for people to evaluate their why, their experience, and whether it's something reasonably or feasibly that you can actually do within your life. I had a very long conversation with my husband, which is my now husband, before we started the firm or kicked it off. And we talked about like the strains first that it would cause. And some of them we missed, right? They were even greater strains that it costs on us. But I also encourage people to do that. How is it going to impact your family, your children, your spouse? If you don't have those things, how about your immediate family or whoever you're close to? These are really valuable conversations to have. And I'm just really grateful for my journey, right? I'm grateful because it's my own, it's unique. I did it my way, right? And I'm proud of what we have so far. And I'm just proud of me, because sometimes we're really hard on ourselves on what we should have done or where we should have been, or, who we should have been at a certain point. But I'm really, really proud of what we accomplished. I am.
So I love hearing the way you talked about that. And I was talking to another friend, and we were just talking about how you can get a raise. And then if you happen to see a list of what everybody, you could be thrilled with that raise. You're like, I finally got my raise. And then you find out someone next to you or your boss, you find out what they're making. And somehow automatically you're just like, wait a minute, this raise is not as good as I thought, And so it's that comparison, he was like, comparison is the thief of joy. And I think it's so true. But like, how do you not fall into that comparison trap? Because what you just described, you're like, you obviously have grace for yourself. You're enjoying, you have a respect for your journey. You see how all these trials and tribulations that you went through have turned you into who you are today. That's allowing you to have this impact and really live out your why.
Sure.
I struggle with that a lot. I struggle with that comparison thing. It's like, it's never enough. It's never, and it's like, if I zoom out of it, it's like, well, what do I have to complain about? You know what I'm saying? I have so many blessings in my life. I have so much to be thankful for. So have you always been that way, where it's easy for you to give yourself grace and it's easy for you to maintain like a healthy perspective? Or is that something that you think that you've kind of developed as you've sort of gone down the journey of life?
Sure. No, I don't think I've always been good at this. I've had a lot of very insecure moments and a lot of moments where I was comparing myself to others. I think what I started to really work on, and it happened over the years. It wasn't something I just developed one day. I spent time with myself, meaning, like you said earlier, journaling. I have journals and affirmations about me that go back all the way to 2007, 2008 that I can read. I spent a lot of time meditating, right? I think it's really important for you to come into a state of just sitting, just being comfortable and being grateful and having gratitude. And I think that is what has helped me to not have this, what I like to call the spirit of comparison right now, especially for me, right? We have all sorts of competition all over the place. But what I focus on is, what do we bring to the table? What do I bring to the table? And then collectively, what do we bring to the table? And you have to love that, and you have to be grateful for that. And yes, there's always going to be something to the left or to the right, but I'm not focused on the left and right, because that's comparison. I'm focused on forward, right? That's goals, that's objective. This is where my purpose is. This is where my road is. And so learning how to do that, first starting with gratefulness and how you talk to yourself. No one ever, I think that's a soft skill that is going, it's just like completely disseminating. It's just like, it's evaporating, honestly. We need to teach people to speak to themselves well. That's important, especially for those that are looking to to go up higher. To me, the higher you go, the more obstacles you have. And so you have to learn how to talk to yourself well. And I've always, as hard as life can be sometimes, even, the very bottom, right? I always tell people in Rahway, New Jersey, taking the train, no car, living in a junior 1-bedroom apartment, walking to work each day, I spoke to myself well. And it's not an easy journey to do that, but it was a habit that I learned to cultivate at each level, right? Speak to yourself well. And trust me, it has come in handy, because as you go up higher, sometimes people will exude the confidence that comes with speaking of yourself well as being arrogant. No, this is what I do to maintain and to keep focus on my goals. Because if I don't speak to myself well, then it's easy to look at you, and it's easy to look at him, and it's easy to look at what they're doing. But when I'm consumed with me and what I have going on, and my purpose, and my why, and my journey, it becomes a lot easier to do. It becomes a lot easier to do.
It's like your eyes don't work without your brain. You know what I'm saying? And
Exactly.
like your self-talk lives in your brain, and that self-talk influences and controls your eyes and what your eyes see,
Exactly.
I think that thing you said about like arrogance, there's this fear of arrogance. And I think that is disproportionately, like that factor is disproportionately present in our space. Like investment bankers aren't scared of being arrogant. You know what I'm saying? Bond traders aren't scared of being arrogant. Okay.
No.
So I think though, like that fear of being arrogant can sometimes cause us to not like address that voice in our head, but that's where it starts, to your point. You know what I mean? So in addressing that, like in addressing the negative self-talk in your head, for me, it's a little bit difficult to identify like which of the self-talk is actually negative and which of it is like honest. Because like it takes self-reflection to get better, right? And it takes self-reflection.
Exactly.
You have to say, okay, I honestly lack this skill and I need to put some work into this skill because it's important and I don't have it. That could be viewed as negative. But then there's also this other type of negative self-talk where, it's like the imposter syndrome self-talk, or, I'm not good enough, or I can't do this. How do you sort of sort through those different voices? Because to me, they all sound like me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I've really started to work on is my emotions, because your emotions oftentimes drive the voices, right? So there are days where I know that I may be on edge for whatever reason, right? Because I've got a lot going on. And so I've heard one person say, so you're basically saying don't trust yourself. No, it's knowing yourself, right? It's knowing that today is not the day for you to listen in totality to what you may be telling you. And I think people don't do that type of work, right? I've become and I've spent this has been really helpful for my journey as an entrepreneur, because I make decisions not just for myself, but for a lot of other people, right? And a lot of other people depend on me. And so I have spent a lot of time beyond what I normally do. And I thought I was doing a great job in getting to know who I am, right? And what I observed about me is that my emotions drove my thoughts, right? And so it was really, really important for me to evaluate my emotions, whatever they are, and we all have them. But I think oftentimes we miss the opportunity to see how they affect our decision-making in a major way. Some people get married off of emotions. Some people choose new jobs off of emotions. People have kids off of emotions. And not to say that these are not amazing things, but we never evaluate why the emotion is there. And so I think it's really important for me personally, speaking for myself, I always evaluate the emotion that I'm experiencing, right? Especially if it's really serious. And oftentimes I have to remind myself, like, all right, okay, girl, how you feeling today? Before you respond to that. Because, you in entrepreneurship, I think the great thing about having a 9-to-5 is you have all these people around you that make you accountable, and you hate it.
It's
when
built in,
you're in it. You hate it. It's built in. But when you're an entrepreneur, you have to find mechanisms to hold you accountable for you. And I wish more people would see it that way. Instead of saying, oh, I'm so free. There is a freedom component to it, but there's also really important metrics that you automatically had before that you no longer have. And it's up to you to make the decision about doing it. And I have really great people around me to help me, in addition to what I do for myself to keep me accountable. And I think that is another reason why I've become so grounded or just firm in this is the right thing, because having to pick for yourself someone to tell me you're doing it wrong, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of courage. You have to
pull that into your life.
You do. You have to pull that person in. And I have a board of advisors that I tap into when I need a second opinion, or when I think like, you know what, I'm struggling with this, or this is the way I see it. What do you think? And so that's how I manage it. I always look at my emotions first. Just get back to your original question. I evaluate my emotions, and I'll just say here on the phone, like, emotions affect everything, and they do need to be evaluated. Sometimes they're helpful, but sometimes they can help you make some pretty bad decisions if you're not careful. So.
Yeah. That emotional regulation, I think you're right, comes down to knowing yourself. And that takes a certain willingness to be honest, willingness to kind of step out of yourself and like scientifically observe what's going on. It takes honesty, and it takes like an introspection. I think that sometimes we don't, like, I'll speak for myself. Like, sometimes I feel like I just don't make time for, but to your point, it's so critical because it really determines everything. Let me ask you this: as you've been in this entrepreneurial journey, what are some of the lessons you've learned that, as you think back in your prior experiences, man, if I had learned this lesson, then I would have been, I would have been so much more impactful when I was in-house or something like that. Are there any things like that? I mean, we've been talking a lot about mindset. I'm sure all those apply. Those things apply whether you're an entrepreneur or not.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that I'm learning to do is negotiation. Working in private equity really exposed me to the idea that most things are negotiable. I think there are levels to negotiation, and I think people don't understand that. And so they don't tap into the level of negotiation they have for that particular environment. And so they just don't do it because they think there's no negotiating that can occur.
Yeah, this is fixed. This is etched in stone. This can't move.
This is rigged. Yes, you can't go far. And for me, I had to learn pretty quickly that negotiation is a crucial part of our success and my success individually. And so I think I would have taken advantage of learning how to negotiate on the level that I was versus saying, can I ask for that? Are you sure? Should I ask for another FTE? I don't know. Should I ask for a raise?
I shouldn't. You know what? I shouldn't. I'll just carry the weight of the world on my shoulders for one more year.
No worries.
No big deal.
Yeah, exactly. Should I go to that conference? They're probably not going to pay for it. They have been talking about the fact that we can't buy paper, so I probably shouldn't ask. And so that was one of the areas when you get knee deep into contracts and you have to learn how to. I recently told someone one of the biggest home runs for me was not money. It was I read a contract and I realized that the terms of that contract, in conjunction with our attorney, they weren't horrible, but they wouldn't help us and they don't protect us. And so I'm sitting there by myself in this moment and I'm saying, and then my partner, I called my partner and I'm like, man, this is entrepreneurship. We have to protect us and we've got to push back. We have to negotiate this. And it's not because they intended on it being negative, but that's the way they are. That's fixed. That's who they are. And so I would say to someone, there are a lot of skills that you can gain without you having the title of entrepreneur or CEO.
100%.
Well before you get out there. And I think you never know where your path is going to lead, but I think it's really important to make the most out of where you are. I tell people that all the time. Negotiation is something you should practice. If you want to go up, you want to go higher, you're looking at someone else, as we talk about comparison, you say, man, how are they doing that? Evaluate the way they negotiate their way through their career, through their lives. And yeah, I had to learn pretty quickly, super fast, how to become a really good negotiator. But when I worked in private equity, like I was saying, they did this so well and they did it so confidently. One of the things I always assessed is even when the negotiations didn't go in their favor, they still walked away with this like, all right, on to the next negotiation. And I love the way I learned so much there. It gave me a lot of, it actually gave me even more confidence to know that this is accessible for you, Leslie, specifically for you. You can do this. And I genuinely feel that that was my purpose there, to be exposed, right? A lot of us don't see jobs like that. Oftentimes we can't reflect on it until we leave. But I think it's really important to evaluate, okay, what is this position or this job doing for me? What do I feel? Besides the fact that, maybe I hate filling out a timesheet, or, that person over there is getting on my nerves. What is it doing for you? What is it exposing you to? And when I look at all of these contracts that we negotiate and all of the things that we go through, we look at stuff all the time. It really did expose me in a positive way. So, but I did wish I would use my negotiation skills way before this time.
But those negotiation skills, I mean, that's the right word. It's a skill. It's not like you're just born tall. You know what I'm saying? You're born with a certain hair color. You're born a great negotiator. It's a skill, and you need both, I think, repetitions of that, of that skill. You need opportunities to negotiate, but you also need, I think, a mentality that you need to advocate for yourself. And I think a lot of us, not just in the space, maybe just in life, to your point, maybe we don't want to come across as arrogant or something, but like, if you're not going to advocate for yourself, who is? You're just going to cross your fingers and hope somebody has witnessed all the, the beads of sweat coming down your face because you're working so hard and the impact that you're having in your office. Like, it's not going to happen. You have to advocate for it. And I think you also have to your point, believe that like everything's negotiable. It's true. You know what? I said that to my kids. I say that to my kids because my dad said that to us growing up. And I really shouldn't have said it because my daughter, she'll negotiate everything. She'll negotiate her bedtime. She'll negotiate what shoes she's wearing. She's like constantly negotiating. But it comes from this place of like, I don't like what the world's giving me, and I'm going to do something to like move the world. I'm going to move these rocks. I'm going to move, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to have some effect on my environment. And, every door is not open. Every door is not unlocked, but every lock can be picked. I believe that 100%.
Yep.
There's always a way. No. There's always a way through that, that negotiation or that, that sale you're trying to make or the persuasion you're trying to push. When you think about, I love what you said about everybody can sort of, the word I use is like be an entrepreneur. Because to your point, so much of what makes a great entrepreneur just makes a great employee or makes a great, worker or makes a great professional. But it's interesting how there's this sort of separation between, entrepreneurs and everyone else. And it's like the intensity of entrepreneurship, I think, causes us to get calloused. Maybe that's the wrong word. It causes us to build muscle and causes us to like get up this sort of self-advocacy or high agency curve faster. And I think to your point, there are certain sort of inherent like security blankets when you're working in a company that you don't have, when you're working on your own. How would you encourage somebody who's maybe feeling a little bit stuck or maybe has lost vision of their why or lost vision of what their current role is like feeding them with? Because look, every experience, to your point, you can look back over your career and see, oh, look, that taught me this and this taught me that. Which is great and fine. Even better, though, if you can recognize the value in the midst of those things. So what would you tell somebody who's feeling like a little bit stuck or who started to like absorb that like cost center mentality because they're just told that from all their peers all the time? Oh, we're a cost center. The stuff I do doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. What would you tell them to like spark that motivation or that enthusiasm in them to like really turn up the dial on that entrepreneurialism?
Yeah, I would say authenticity. I think the greatest challenge that people have is they when it comes to that, I call it a Build-A-Bear mentality, right? This is the way we do things. This is it. This is the box, and you stay in it. Authenticity gets lost in that, right? But there is a way to still bring your authentic self to that box. Most people don't see it that way. It's just like negotiating, like we were talking about. They say, oh, they told me this is what the box looks like. They told me that I can only open it at 12 o'clock and close it back at 1. This is what they told me. But they didn't say you can't open it with a snap or a squirrel. They didn't say that you can't be your best version of yourself. And I think that people have to remember who they are and what they want to accomplish. Yes, structure and all of that is extremely important. I think what is more important, though, is if you lose yourself within that structure, right? If you forget who you are, and forgetting who you are is not just staying at a job for years, because I've seen people stay at a job, be their authentic selves, and have amazing careers simply because they didn't forget who they are. How does this job serve my purpose? How does this position serve my purpose? What can I gain from this? And I will say, this is not to toot my own horn, but toot. This is something that I did throughout my entire career. Is I was grateful for every level that I was on. I always had a next level, right? But I always was evaluating how this level was going to prepare me for that, right? While still remembering, okay, girl, this is exactly what you want to achieve, but you need to work on your public speaking, right? Or so ask for some opportunities to speak up in a meeting. You need to work on your writing skills. So ask for a little mentoring with your report writing. And I think people don't see that as being their authentic self, but asking for help, asking for direction on the level within that level. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to go to the next level in order to gain an understanding or be your authentic self, because you're still going to have limits. I have limits now. As an entrepreneur, very much so. I think I'm even more accountable for self because of my owning my own business and wanting to maintain my reputation. That's really, really important for me. So there's a lot of limits around me. But I think people have to, I think everyone, including myself, you have to remember who you are and what you want. How can my environment serve it? We only think about it in the opposite direction. How can I serve my environment? But your environment should be serving you. And you should learn what that looks like for you within the confines of not being, because a lot of times people associate that with being rebellious, right? It's not being rebellious. That's not. It's actually being true to yourself. And we have to stop using these words in that manner. And I think there's a clear differentiation between growth in one level, right, and you just bucking against the rules. I've seen people who just want to buck. They're not happy anywhere. You could give them the best job on earth. They're still not going to be happy. They can have millions of dollars. They're still not going to be happy. This doesn't apply to them. I'm talking about people who truly want to grow. So in growth, I think evaluating why you don't have the posture of serving the environment serving you, rather, instead of you always serving the environment.
Yeah, because to your point, like there's something to pull from every experience. And I found that, you know, maybe it's like a question of like vision for your own career, or vision, you know, the way you described it, you said, cool, I'm good, I'm happy, I'm content and thankful for the level that I'm at, but my eyes are on that next level. I think if you don't have your eyes on a next move, if you don't know what next lily pad you're trying to jump to, then it's really hard to not get caught up in the mundane that comes along with that job. And it's hard, it becomes harder to find like the value or the opportunities for growth in that current, on that current lily pad that you're on, you know what I mean? But when you can start to focus on that, well, then you're naturally going, because like you're on a path, I'm on a path, and this path is trying to go to that summit. And so as long as you can stay on that path and continue to advance down the path, if it gets steep or whatever, it's so much easier to deal with it. But I've just found when you don't have that next move lined up and you don't have that vision for it, it's so easy to get stuck. And I've just seen so many people just get stuck in their careers and they fall into that apathy trap, and they fall into, you know, these situations where, you know, there's so much more that they can be getting.
Right.
I just wonder why. I don't know, maybe it's just like mindset, maybe it's vision, maybe it's, you know, focusing on our why and knowing ourselves, authenticity, all those things. But it's so interesting how, you know, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it in people that, you know, where at one point you knew them and they were just full of like enthusiasm and energy. And like, you know, we have that when we first get into a job. On day one, when you take that job, you're like, oh man, I'm going to come and I'm going to roll my sleeves up, man, and I'm going to change the world. And then 2 years later, you're like, freaking, I can't get anything done around here, you know?
Yep. Well, one of the things too that I've also learned from that is because I've practiced it with the folks that work, you know, with us and for us at Revu. It's as a leader, it's my responsibility to serve the people that work for us. I'm a servant to them. leaders sometimes don't look at it like that. They want to be, they want to be the one in charge. There's so many benefits to looking at yourself as a servant, because I have learned to adjust or move people into a position that makes sense, that serve their purpose, right? Sometimes people will apply for jobs that have nothing to do. They're not good at it. They just need a job. Maybe they need money. Maybe they need, maybe they're bored. Maybe they need whatever it is. I think it's my responsibility to help them identify, all right, you're here. You're amazing. I see some amazing skills, but let's use them for this. And I think leaders, it's really important for leaders today, people who are in positions of influence, who can provide access, who can give exposure for you and mentor, for you and sponsor. Let me add that. For you to do more than just lead, right? You need to assess, am I really serving the people that work for me? Am I serving the team? Could we be doing better if I help them to see that your skills are great? Let's put them here. This is why it's not working here. Or let me give you this book. Or let me introduce you to this person. Or let me give you this opportunity. I think that's really important. And I think it's good to have balance with that. But I also think we're more on the disciplinary side versus the serving side. And we need to balance it. There needs to be a nice balance between the two. And I have found that evaluating even the way I do that has helped people sort of walk into their purpose even more. I recently had someone say to me, this is my jam. I love doing this. And I'm like, I'm so happy you do, because it shows. You can see the purpose that comes out of her from doing this task. And it's helping us to be a better company. So it serves a larger purpose in serving others. And I live and die by that when it comes to leadership.
Back in the day before Apple Watches, when they had the old watches that they would like wind up, when people would get off the train, they would look at the big clock at the train station, and they would set their watch to that clock so that they wouldn't miss the train home at the end of the day. And like, that's what you are. That's what any leader is. They're that big clock. People are setting their watch to you. And I think when you have that sort of servant's posture, it's so much easier, if you're authentic or you have that servant's posture or you're kind of purpose driven, it's so much easier for people to say, oh, okay, cool. That's safe to do here. And I can start to exude those same kind of qualities. And I think, a lot of times, a lot of compliance and ethics folks that I talk to, there's a certain level of frustration because they feel like they know what they need to do. They know what the business needs, but they can't seem to get traction or to drive that change. Or I hear people say, yeah, culture is important, but how do you change the culture of this massive company? It's going to be like, turning a battleship or something like that. And I think we often lose sight of the impact that we can have locally and how much more powerful that can be. Like, you can do that with your team, whether you have 5 people or 2 people or 20 people, like you can be that, it sounds trite, but like you can be the change that you want to see in your company, or you can be that change that you want to see in the world. And what I found is that it's very easy to ignite those flames in people, because I think we all want those flames to be, firing, you know what I'm saying? But I think we get so jaded in the workplace, and we get jaded in these professional experiences where we feel like that has no place here, or that's not allowed here, or like you were saying about negotiation, that can't move. And I just think it takes, we can all be leaders. It's just a willingness to be an example. It's a willingness to raise your hand and, speak up about something. Well, that's all it is,
And I love that you just said that, because it's something that I talk about a lot with compliance professionals. It's always checking. Being self-aware is really important, because sometimes we can't have an elitist attitude. We know this. Totally. You guys should know this. This is a regulation that you should be aware of. I always say, if you're not a compliance officer that's interested in being effective and impactful, don't be a compliance professional, because almost everyone around you has no idea what you're talking about, except for maybe 3 or 4 people in the organization. And so I have always I've always taken pride in the fact that my goal is to make sure that when I go in to educate, or whoever I'm building a relationship with, or whatever I need to do, whatever change I need, do they understand? Am I presenting it in a way that makes sense for them? Am I writing college level policies for employee population that's at an 8th grade level? That's an elitist I do not like
ain't
it at all.
effective.
It's not focused.
Right.
It's not. You're not focusing on the general population. You're focusing on you. And so I think you brought up a really great point. A lot of people, sometimes it goes back to our conversation about emotions and who you are. You're not evaluating who you are. Sometimes it's you. Sometimes it really genuinely is you. You are the problem. And it takes a lot of courage to be able to say, you know what, I need to change this. So.
But it's also, it does take courage, but it's also easier. And I think it's an easier way to go through life, to understand and believe that there's always something different that you could have done
exactly
relative to the outcome that you're dealing with. You know what I'm saying? There's always something different. And so that's like a high responsibility, high ownership, high agency type of a mentality. But I think when we can get over the infallibility that might kind of creep into us as we put out kind of elitist things that are directly in contrast or directly contradict effectiveness, I think it just opens up so much. It leads to so much authenticity. You can engage in a better way. You can be self-critical in a healthy way to see, well, what rough edges need to be smoothed over a little bit. And to your point, this is like, you never arrive, you never reach the top of the mountain, because guess what? There's another mountain behind that. And guess what? Behind that, it's all mountains. So like, it's really, again, it's that kind of, journey over destination type thinking. And that if you're going to continue to progress up this path toward the summit that you have your eyes on, it's going to take you building something new, a new muscle, a new way to breathe that, this new, you're now above the tree line. So you got to breathe thinner air, right? Like there's a constant sort of evolution and development that is necessary to progress down that path. But that progress requires, to your point, like authentic self-awareness, authentic, honest self-assessment in order to like see where we might be slipping,
Exactly.
So we are coming to the end here, Leslie. This was awesome, as I expected. Can you tell us a little bit more about Revu and see where, where people can find you, all that?
Yeah, so Revu is a healthcare consulting firm offering healthcare advisory services in the world of compliance, coding compliance, physician advisory. Please check us out on our website, www.revuhealthcare.com. I'm very active on LinkedIn under Leslie Boles and under Revu Healthcare, and we're here to help you. We want to partner with you. So thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for inspiring me with your story, because you are phenomenal. You're
awesome.
You have no idea.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, check out Leslie on LinkedIn, check out Revu. And if you ever get a chance to see her speak on a webinar or at a conference, circle that session in red. I got to tell you.
Thank you for that.
All right, Leslie.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. We'll see you soon.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.